Hey everyone, welcome back to Endless Money Pits. This is a 2001 Chevrolet Corvette, and today I'll show you a modified way to install the cold air intake from K&N. The instructions from K&N call for removing the lower radiator cover and cutting into it to get more airflow to the new air filter. But right before I got to that point, the owner of the car decided I should install a set of vented fog light shrouds instead. The owner says these modifications improved low-end power and throttle response, and a dyno test conducted by K&N showed an increase of 11.35 horsepower and 12.93 foot-pounds of torque at 4,700 RPM after installing the cold air intake on a C5 Corvette. This isn't really a difficult job, but it does take some time and patience, so let's get to it. Here are the tools that I used to install the cold air intake. Electric screwdriver, socket wrench, long socket extension, 6mm socket, 8mm socket, 10mm socket, 19mm wrench, 14mm wrench, 10mm wrench, needle nose pliers, flathead screwdriver, tiny flathead screwdriver, silicone grease, paint marker, magnetic bowl, and here are the tools that I used for installing the vented fog light shrouds. 2 socket wrenches, 2 long socket extensions, 10mm socket, 7mm socket, 19mm wrench, 14mm wrench, needle nose pliers, a prying tool, floor jack, jack stands, impact driver, a light, a creeper, 2 towels, safety glasses, gloves, 2 wood blocks, and a magnetic bowl. For this job, I also needed a K&N air intake made for the C5 Corvette, and a set of vented fog light shrouds. There are links in the description for everything I used. Put the headlights up, turn off the key, and open the hood. We'll start by disconnecting the negative battery cable. Be careful not to drop anything under the battery. It won't be easy to find. You'll need to pry up this clip before you can unplug the mass airflow sensor. Twist and pull to disconnect the joint in the air injection hose. This one was pretty tight. Remove the 2 plastic pins securing either side of the intake tube. Push the airbox toward the engine to pop it free from its mounting points. Loosen this hose clamp, slide the hose off the throttle body, and the whole intake should come right out. We'll need to remove the mass airflow sensor to use it in the new setup. We'll also need to reuse the rubber grommets from the stock airbox. If they aren't here, they might still be stuck to the mounting points on the car. Be careful not to rip them. Okay, this is there's a typo in the directions. It says use the silicone hose part number 08621, but the actual part number is 08631, not 21. It's a tight fit, but you'll still need to secure it with a hose clamp. The hose clamps in this kit were slightly different sizes, and some of them wouldn't fit where others would, so choose wisely. Get another hose clamp ready before installing the mass airflow sensor. I couldn't get the airflow sensor into the sleeve until I added some silicone grease. Make sure the arrow on the sensor is pointing away from the air filter. This connector should be pointed up and to the left. The kit came with a rubber grommet that you'll need to fit into this hole. I wish they would have installed this at the factory because it was a really tight fit and it actually seemed a little too big for the hole. At this point, you're supposed to install a rubber-mounted stud in this hole, but someone at K&N forgot to put one in this kit, so they had to mail one to me later. Assemble these pieces from the kit as shown. I used some more silicone grease to help fit this end into the rubber grommet, but it was a very tight fit. Find the sleeve numbered 08755 and slip it onto the new intake tube. This hose clamp was too small to slide over the sleeve, so I took it apart first. The sleeve numbered 08630 goes on the other end. At this point, you should attach the metal bracket to the rubber-mounted stud on the front of the air filter, but I can't do that yet since I'm missing the piece. The two rubber grommets from the stock airbox mounts need to fit into these holes facing the same way as shown. Now connect the intake tube to the other end of the mass airflow sensor. The airflow sensor has a little plastic tab on it that doesn't fit into the K&N silicone sleeve, so you could shave that off if you want, but I decided to just work with it and make it fit the best I could. Time to test fit the new intake. Connect the intake tube to the throttle body. Then, the bracket missing from the front of my air filter would pop onto the mounting studs that were holding the stock airbox. With the intake fitted to the car, the next step would be to mark an outline of the air filter on the lower radiator cover. The normal installation procedure would then have you remove the upper and lower radiator covers and cut 3 sides of a square that we outlined around the air filter in the lower cover. Bolting on the included brackets would hold open this new flap and allow extra airflow to the air filter, but before I got to that step, the owner of the car contacted me with a change of plans. He had ordered some vented fog light shrouds that would make it unnecessary to cut into the radiator cover, so I put a hold on the installation until I got those shrouds and the part that I was missing from the kit. The rubber-mounted stud arrived the following week, at which time I realized we were also missing the nut to secure it, but luckily I had a spare locking nut that worked perfectly. I'll have to pull the whole intake out again to install the new piece. This rubber washer goes between the rubber-mounted stud and the air filter. It would have been easier to install this metal bracket onto the air filter first, so don't do it the way I did it. I can reinstall the upper radiator cover now since we had a change of plans for the installation. Reinstall the intake with the metal bracket attached to the air filter, and push the metal bracket onto the mounting points. This is where I realized I had made a mistake, but I got that nut installed eventually. With the intake back in, I moved on to installing the vented fog light shrouds. There are 6 pins we need to pull from the top edge of the bumper cover. A metal prying tool would have worked better for this, so I ordered one when I was done. Remove these 3 screws from each wheel well. Under the front bumper, in front of each tire, there's a panel we need to remove held in with 5 screws. Underneath, you'll find 3 more screws on each side and 5 more along the front. This piece directing air up to the radiator also needs to be removed. It's held in place with 2 10mm bolts. Slide the whole thing forward to release it from its mount. Now we can access the last 2 screws. Above the access panel we pulled off, there are 2 nuts to remove at the top of the bumper on each side. I got one out using extensions, but had to reach up to get the other one. Now you can start pulling off the bumper cover, but there's a wire on the passenger side we need to be careful with. You can disconnect this wire, but I got enough slack by sliding the connection off its mount. I laid a couple towels on the ground to protect the paint. Here's a quick look at what's behind the bumper cover. Each fog light shroud is held in place with 3 10mm bolts. Remove the wire clips by squeezing and pushing through from behind. Install the new shroud and replace the wire. Easy peasy. Once you've done both sides, put the bumper cover partway on and slip the wire back onto its mount. Carefully line up the sides with the studs coming from the fenders and slip the top edge over the support bar. Reinstall the 2 10mm nuts on each side as you line up the bumper cover with the fender. Bend these 2 flaps back into place and secure them with screws. Here's where my screwdriver died. I didn't start with the impact driver because I hadn't used it before and I thought it might be too powerful for these small screws, but the low power setting was perfect for this. Reinstall the 5 screws in the front, 3 on each side, and 5 in each access panel. Reinstall the air scoop by sliding it back into its mount and secure it with the two 10mm bolts. Put 3 screws in each wheel well. Leave a comment if you know why the washers are designed this way. Reinstall the 6 pins along the top edge of the bumper. Check the air ducts and make sure to push them into place if they aren't lined up. The kit also comes with an emissions exemption sticker that needs to be placed in a visible area under the hood if you live in an area that requires emissions testing. To test the engine before driving, run the engine with the transmission in park or neutral and listen for air leaks or other unwanted noises. This cold air intake will be louder than the stock one, but any unusual noises need to be addressed. If everything sounds okay, go for a test drive, but keep listening for any strange noises. Don't forget to reconnect the battery and reset the clock. Once you're sure any issues have been taken care of, feel free to enjoy the added power and boosted soundtrack of your Corvette. K&N says this intake will need to be periodically checked for realignment, clearance, and tightening of all connections in order to maintain its warranty. They also say the air filter will need to be checked every 25,000 miles and cleaned at least every 100,000 miles. Personally, that's a lot further than I'd want to push it, and I wouldn't expect K&N to replace your engine if something goes wrong unless you have some really solid evidence, so follow their service recommendation at your own discretion. Now close the hood, lower the lights, and put the car back on the ground because we're done. I've made a lot more videos on modifying this Corvette, so check those out next. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more of the best DIY videos on the internet. And until next time, just keep throwing money at it.
Dang it. No, what?